welcome once again to Talking Pictures Podcast. I'm your host David, and joined with me, as always, my co-host Brian. Brian, how are you today?
David, I'm ashamed.
Why? What have you done? Have you been starting another podcast without me or something?
No. Last week I said it was the 9th episode of Yellowstone's return in season 5.
I did notice this.
Man, shut up. It's gonna be, okay, as of recording this, it's episode 10. Big mistake on me.
Brian,
okay.
you're cancelled. That's it. We can't trust you anymore. Have you got a trailer of the week first before we let people go? The trust was taken away.
Did you just say let people go?
Before we start.
Keeping this in. I'm not taking. No, you're editing this, but you're not taking it out. No. I'm going to ridicule you.
I can't believe I just tried to cancel you and then I immediately cancel myself.
It's okay. A trailer. I forgive you.
Have we got a trailer of the week before we kick into things today?
Yes, I do.
Brilliant.
Secret Level.
Oh, excellent choice. And once again, very similar to Mission Impossible trailer, where I've listened to this but I haven't watched it because I wanted you said to me, here's the trailer, don't watch, just get your goosebumps, and it did exactly that for me.
Yeah. Because I've watched the trailer now a few times because it's not spoiling anything in terms of visuals. I'm not going to remember it. It's 15 anthology episodic stories from multiple intellectual properties from the gaming industry.
Yeah.
And the only one I know is from God of War. That's it. And in that moment where the music really peaks emotionally and then boom, 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 boom. You don't know what that moment is, but it just gives off all the names and the voice actors, and not all of them are big action star names. They're like creative voice talents.
Good. Which is exactly what you need for a project like this. So for anyone that doesn't know, Secret Level, very similar to Love, Death and Robots. I think it's the same studio, is it?
Same creators.
So they're doing an anthology series. So every episode will be a completely new story, different, probably different visuals, different everything. Like they're completely separate, but each one will take a look at a video game property. Yeah. Which I think is incredible. I'm just shocked that it hasn't happened before. Do you know, when they announced this, I was like, of course, why not? Because, like, why hasn't this happened before? Because as we enter into this age of video game adaptations and video game movies and TV series, there are some that don't require those big scale things. So having, or, you know, a full series or anything, but having 20 to 30 minutes of a showcase, a spectacular showcase of, like, here's the best of, you know,
short films,
just essentially short films. And, you know, we're not gonna, like, realistically, like, one of them that I know, Pac-Man is, you're not gonna have a Pac-Man movie. Now maybe someone in Hollywood is like rubbing their hands together going, yeah, Pac-Man movie, like, what would that story be? And you wouldn't fit out a whole series or a whole 90-minute movie of that. However, you give some incredibly creative artists 20 minutes and a big budget, I can almost guarantee that this is going to be 15 episodes. Every episode will be spectacular.
And it's got money.
Yeah. And I think, even me saying that now, like, I genuinely believe it. I don't think there'll be, like, even if there's a bad episode, it will still be great. It'll still be spectacular.
Oh, the moment in the trailer when the guy says, I can do this alone, and your one says, but you're not alone.
I don't even know what that's from. You know, I don't know what.
I've watched it and I don't know what it's from. I just know we've got some good content coming.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to it. So it's going to be released every week in 2 episode batches.
I have no idea, David.
I looked it up, yeah. So it's 2 episode batches for 7 weeks,
right,
into the new year. It's coming out December 3rd, I believe.
No, that's Skeleton Crew.
Bear with me 1 second while I look at our calendar, because I have it on our calendar. It is coming out
while I sip my coffee.
It is coming out December 10th. So I was a week off. But yeah, so it's going to be 2 episodes every week, and I can't wait to watch 1 episode a day. Like, I'm just going to savor it. You know, I'm not going to try and rush through it and watch 2 episodes. I want to sit with whatever they present to me, enjoy it, and digest it, you know?
So you're not going to binge it?
No, definitely not.
Unlike Arcane,
that is another video game property that apparently is deserving of its whole series of 2 series. And who knows, maybe I have to watch that in quick succession for next Wednesday, the 27th.
Good luck.
But I don't know.
Good luck.
I don't know why would I have to watch it before Wednesday? I don't know. We release a podcast on Wednesdays, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Oh no, yeah, I'm sure they're completely irrelevant. They're unrelated.
Sure.
We're here today, Brian, to talk about Gladiator 2.
Right.
Are you a big Gladiator fan? Like of the original?
No.
No, me neither.
But I won't deny it's a beloved classic in the modern age.
It's one.
It's your father's favorite movie.
It could easily, yeah. It's one of your dad's favorite movies.
Yeah.
It's one that I didn't realize. You had said this to me yesterday. You were like, "Did you know that they went in with a 22-page script? Like they went in so ill prepared."
Something like that. Yeah, it's actually well spoken about. Ridley spoke about that. Russell Crowe spoke highly about that. That some direction they were going to go, it was just not working, and they backtracked from where they were or how far they were at a certain point. Probably before the crossing of the threshold in traditional storytelling, the 12-act structure. So, yeah, quite a struggle, and it only won Best Picture.
Only one Best Picture. You go into shooting a film with 22 pages.
Yeah.
A page a minute, 22 minutes, and you come out with an Oscar. It's incredible. And I think it stands to reason that is because of Ridley Scott. Like, he is I know that we very easily say, like, he's so hit and miss, but he is a visionary director.
Yeah, like, I was reminded of his mastery in the arts when I watched Gladiator 2, because at 86 years old, this is what he pulled off. And I say the same thing in Napoleon, but the story wasn't really there. But the spectacle in terms of execution, a production set, a film set, with all the vases of extras and horses and equipment on screen and behind the camera. It's so much. I feel like when actors are given the grace to pad time because they need to get their lines perfect and they need to get the right take, I feel like Ridley Scott, I would believe that he would need the time as well to ensure that when he says action, everything needs to be meticulously set, or he's just a pure genius and he is able to execute on command because he sets up like 20 cameras.
Yeah, he's got full coverage.
I'm exaggerating. It's more like 11.
But I think that what you said there of like the pure spectacle of it, I think that's what it comes down to me, is these worlds that he creates. Now, we talked about Napoleon back the end of last year, and we talked about it in full discussion, and similarly enough, right, I the same sentiment with you, where the story wasn't the greatest. However, seeing a revolutionary France in that way, I've never seen it before on screen, and it's almost like looking through a window in time.
Yeah.
And I think that is exemplary as well in the original Gladiator and here as well, because there's at no point where I'm watching this Gladiator 2 where I'm thinking, that they're not in Rome, that Rome looks like this, that they've gone over to Rome and the Colosseum is exactly as it is presented in the film.
They're in Morocco.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like that. It doesn't look like that, Everything looks as if Ridley Scott brought all the cast and crew up to a time machine. I was like, right guys, are you ready? We're going to head on location. And they went back in time to the Roman Empire and shot from there.
No, he's on a set.
I know he's on a set.
No, but no, like, I get what you're coming from. You said the same thing with Avatar: The Way of Water when Jimmy C brought everyone to a new galaxy.
Yeah.
I agree with that. He did. I can't say that here. But I will acknowledge that every time Ridley pulled back into a massive wide shot where you see a crowd multiplied by dozens, I really thought about the practicality of that, and that is a lot of content, mobile elements on screen with action taking place. That is quite impressive because it's so wide, and then you see the sets in the background.
It feels like a real place. It feels like you're really in Rome.
Yeah. Like, there were some shots, I'm not going to lie, or scenes where I feel like that feels like you just have the 2 to 3 actors minus extras, or maybe 1 or 2 extras, and it feels like a piece of the background. Now, this is interiors I'm talking about. A piece of the background is a green screen.
Okay.
There's some scene, I think it was, I'm going to guess, but I could be wrong because I've only seen the movie once, and it was last night and it was late, but it was the scene where Denzel was with the twins, and it was at that pivotal moment. And the crowd is I just feel like one actor is in the foreground pulling over a curtain but he's not really looking at a window.
Yeah.
I feel like it feels like the fourth wall where, you know, in a sitcom situation where the cameras are placed. It feels like that's where the cameras are placed, and we're looking at the inside of an interior set with the fourth wall, which should be there, is not there, and it doesn't even feel like we're looking through a window. It just feels like we're watching a scene, and that's how I feel like in that moment, and that was just one example. I don't feel like I am inside this structure. I feel like I am on a set, and the only building of that set is the three walls in which the camera is pointing to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel that's just one example of maybe a few others, but why don't I do it and see how I get on? You know, I'm not going to do that. Ridley Scott is a genius, and I think no matter how many difficult movies reception wise he delivers, he is an argument to not be on the Mount Rushmore of iconic classic directors who are still living today. Spielberg, Scorsese, you can put a fourth one in there, and I think you'd have to be challenged if you're going to quickly deny Ridley Scott. Now, I will say he's not put out a class movie since The Martian. I liked House of Gucci. I liked The Last Duel, and whatever else he did recently.
Alien Covenant.
I'm disappointed with that one.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm trying to say. All the movies I liked All the Money in the World. I like that movie. But all the movies he's released, they were all fine or okay or good for a first time watches, and then I'll never think about them again.
Yeah.
Gladiator II, his best movie since The Martian. I feel like I'll go back and watch The Martian because it's such a great science fiction movie that is actually light on the consequences, and a perfect book adaptation, even though I never read the book. But yeah, Gladiator 2, his best movie since then. I really feel like I suppose I've been working on this sequel to one of my iconic classic movies, so I guess I suppose I have to clock in and actually put in some effort, like not just allow my ego run the set. But yeah, he really delivered on this one. I like this movie. I gave it 3.5 stars.
Because he rarely does do a sequel. Like Prometheus and Alien Covenant, even though they are in prequels and you know, a sequel to a prequel and that, those are very much franchise movies. But he did obviously the original Alien, and then it wasn't until Prometheus that he came back again years later. What else was it that he did? Blade Runner, but he didn't do Blade Runner 2049.
No.
So he's not very well known as a sequel director, or like, you know, he's carrying on his own properties.
He's a franchise starter.
He starts them and he, you know, pushes out the door. It's like, off you go, you know.
Oh no, but I don't think he actually does them with like that. Like I think years later, another creative artist will come in and to carry on the fold. Denis Villeneuve with Blade Runner. I won't say Jimmy C, but definitely Fede Alvarez was another one. Whereas like if you put the two guys in the room, like Fede and Ridley, them two, like it's like master and student. And with Denis Villeneuve and Ridley Scott, with the age generations, that contributes to the master and student, even though Denis Villeneuve is today's all-time great.
Yeah,
you wouldn't put, you know, Ridley Scott and Jimmy C. They're not master and student. They're different genres of the master arts. But
this is his first like direct sequel, as far as I'm aware, isn't it?
Sure, yeah.
Gladiator to Gladiator 2.
Well, you could say Alien Covenant. You could. I don't want to get into semantics. No. Let's talk about the movie because
So going into it, I think so. My initial question of like, are you a Gladiator fan? I'm the same. Where I'm not like a Gladiator fan. Like I watched it again and I really enjoyed it, but it's not one that, I mean, like I know for a fact I haven't seen it since at least 2015. Like I'm almost certain that I've seen it. Like watching it this time would have been might be my third time watching it, because like I'd seen it once originally, maybe like once in school or something like that. Yeah, and then this time seeing it again. So
well, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like I'm of the same. Yeah. Now I don't know. Maybe I would watch it more. I would watch it maybe once more than you, but that's just because you're told by the generation above you that it is a classic. It's an all-time great, but it's not gonna be one of my all-time favorite movies. Like,
no, me neither. So I think because of that, because neither of us were huge fans of that, like this one, I wasn't highly anticipating.
Well, let me tell you this. When the trailer came out, and it played with that trailer music, and then it came out with a second trailer, and it played the music more accommodating of its own score.
Yeah.
I never sought out those trailers to tease the epic that this movie is. This is not an epic. It's a greatly made movie. And that's it. I'm happy it's good.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. Like, when you talk, okay, it's a revenge plot movie, and it's a movie about a gladiator. It's the title is taken. You're gonna do any other movies that are in a similar concept, story wise or character wise, about gladiator profilers like a centurion or a Viking. Do you know what I mean? It's you're not gonna have other movies that are going to, whether they're B-list or not, they're not gonna claim themselves to be, oh, we're a gladiator movie. Well, first of all, you can't call yourself gladiator. You can you can't just call yourself gladiator. You can call yourself the gladiator sword or the gladiator's revenge. And there you're getting into the B-level territory. But what's the point I'm trying to make? I don't watch these really for the plots are very straightforward and simple, and the first movie being 2000, nearly 3 hours long, it did a good job to have a hero you can follow and root for, caught in a disadvantaged position, trying to seek revenge on the most hateful villain you could ever come to know in 2000. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Gladiator 2 followed the same plot again. It didn't really, beyond the initial concept that, well, there's a gladiator and he's fighting in a arena and there's a revenge story. You can't really change it. You can't have something called The Pilot and he flies a plane in one movie, and in the second one, well, what's he going to do? He's a sailor. Well, he can sail a boat, and he can drive a truck, and he can crash a go-kart, but he can still he's still a pilot. He has to fly a plane. He has to. This is called Gladiator. He has to fight in arenas in the Colosseum. He has to make foes and come to face with them, and he has to make allies, and there has to be a love interest somewhat. And I think the revenge story is the most commanding requirement in this franchise, and
that's fine.
It doesn't follow the formula of the first one. It has its own differences, key differences, I would say.
I think the formula works. It's kind of that old adage of, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You want to see Paul Mescal be a gladiator, but like, what is he fighting for? And it's his freedom, and it's the revenge story. And I think it's the easiest one to fit into that mold.
You said that you were hoping that, could Lucius be followed by all these men, all these slaves turned gladiators, turned prisoners? You wanted to see Lucius be followed and inspire those to follow him, like how Russell Crowe was in the first one. So, did that work for you?
So what I said to you initially was that this was before we saw the second one, and it was, after watching the initial one, Maximus is such a likable character, and he commands the respect of all of those around him. When he's the general, he has the respect of his legions, and everyone will follow him. And when he becomes a gladiator, he earns the respect of those other gladiators, and they all fight for him and lead for him, or they follow his lead, and they do as he says. Even so much so that later on in the film, in that first one, when Maximus is a gladiator, still the people who he was the general over will follow him and help him out. And it's not just because he's lost his title that he's no longer the same man. What I was hoping for was, I hope that Paul Mescal, or Lucius, whichever one you want to call him,
can we decide? Because
we'll refer to him as Lucius, I suppose.
Right. Everyone else will refer by their actual name in real life.
No, well, if we're going to do that, then we'll do actors. Okay, so Paul Mescal. Okay. What I was hoping then,
because I can't remember everyone else's name.
That's okay. What I wanted for is, Paul Mescal going to come into this, and is he going to be as likable? And am I going to believe that these people will follow him in the same way that Russell Crowe was followed by so many? Because going into this, Paul Mescal isn't the general. He doesn't come from the same background. Now, a very key difference, I think, as well, between that first and this movie, going back and watching the first movie, it's 40 minutes of screen time before Russell Crowe becomes a gladiator, before he the crossing of the threshold, before he loses his family and he's taken
hold
into...
on a sec. Is it 40 minutes when he's taken to be executed and it's cold and your man couldn't pull his sword out of his sheath?
It's 40 minutes from when he is taken to be a slave.
I think crossing that threshold is a good...
Well, meant...
So when you say 40 minutes, to me that's thinking... Really? Does Quintus take him out to the forest to kill him then in 40 minutes time? Surely that's not. See, 40 minutes to the gladiators arena, essentially.
No, 40 minutes to when he becomes a slave.
The start of him becoming...
Yeah, when he meets Jaimon Hanzo.
Oh.
So there's a lot of character building and development within that time, in the whole first act, before any of the gladiator stuff starts.
Yeah.
So we know his motivations and we know how he interacts with the other characters and the relationships between them. Whereas in this one, it's about 15 minutes, maybe at a push, 20 minutes
after a battle.
After an initial battle. But before the battle, there is a small sequence between Paul Mescal and his wife. And
to show that he does come from a different background altogether. He lives a humble, low life. Obviously not of wealth, but
he's happy.
Yeah, happy.
And
not where we thought where that character should be. You know, he should be living the life of where the twins are living.
Yeah, we'll get to that bit later, definitely. But it's a very, very different starting point, because we have that initial introduction, then a battle where now Paul Mescal has lost, the inciting incident for him where he's lost his wife, and then he is sold into slavery and he becomes a gladiator. So it's very quick, and I think that we spend more time in this movie in that gladiator setting. And so he doesn't come from the same, like you said, he doesn't come from the same background as Maximus does. So it had to be believable. Why would these men follow him? You know?
And did they? Or were you convinced?
I think over the course of the film, I was convinced, and it took a while, but I think that was obviously intentional, because he doesn't ever start out to become a leader or anything like that. And there are moments throughout where people don't follow his lead. You know, specifically there's the first scene in the Colosseum where they're fighting the rhino.
Yeah, well, first scene in Colosseum, but it's not the first...
Not the first gladiator scene. No, I'm talking about the first scene.
The guy thinks he can take on the rhino by himself.
Yeah, and he doesn't follow his instruction, and he's the only one that ends up dying.
Yeah.
And so...
Which is interesting. No one else died throughout. And,
in that battle. Yeah. But then...
As in, like, no one else of the gladiators with Paul Mescal received any deaths. No one of consequence. Do you know what I mean?
I never felt that the other gladiators were fleshed out enough to give them consequence.
There were like one or two who I could see used to are native to Morocco. You must have been casted because you're so close to the thing, and the doctor included, but the doctor was definitely the one that was fleshed out the most. He was actually, if anything, he's the equivalent of the Jaimon Hanzo type character.
Yeah, definitely.
But he's a completely different character. Never mind, completely different actor.
But the way that I suppose he earns their respect, or their, you know, his station of being able to lead them, is kind of nearly through humor. Like, because there are a couple of scenes where in another film, it would have been very easy for him to have another enemy within the gladiators. Like when he arrives back at he's just been bought by Denzel, and he sits down to have a meal, and they all start making monkey noises at him, because in the scene previously he had viciously killed a baboon.
A fucking dog demon looking baboon.
I want to talk about those later as well. But and he laughs with them, you know, and he accepts it. He's like,
rather than him standing up, get his food tray right, who wants to take a beating? No, he laughs with them. He's like, he's one of the lads.
Or he doesn't want to take the food away and sit by himself and he's a loner or something. He acknowledges that what he did was
that was
funny,
that was a good starting initiative to have all the guys have their attention caught by him.
And then later on, there's just a few examples of it where he kind of takes the lead without being the leader.
Yeah, like the scene where in the Sharks where Well, I suppose in the round scene, he's trying to tell them what to do, and most of them survive and one died because he didn't. And he gets to say to Denzel's lackey, "This is what happens when you're a gladiator. It's not the road to glory;
it's the road to death."
Yes, and so the next scene is the sharks and infested waters with the ships. And
the one before that, when they're out training.
Oh yeah,
and he makes a joke or something about. He makes a joke to the slave driver or whatever, and he has to stay there by himself to do the rowing, and a couple of the other gladiators are there kind of watching him, and they're like watching there. I think they're kind of inspired by him because of the fact that he's not giving up, he's still doing the exercises, and they kind of nearly stand up to go help him, and then the slave driver's like, leave him, go. So those scenes, like his commitment to it,
but then the next scene he's already in the position commanding them.
There was no discussion.
But I would have liked a scene to establish there was no discussion. I would like either Denzel or the slave driver or the guys themselves to go up to Paul Mescal. We believe in you to lead us. Can you lead us? Can you help us? Can you help us survive?
Follow my orders.
And then proceed on to him saying this is about survival. So I just needed an extra scene of that.
Yeah, and that's fair, I think, because
it's just starting off with him already taking command. Because there's so many more guys now on the boat. It's just what I expect of a movie that I'm not going to think too much about. But if they did show me that scene, I am going to think more about it. Go on.
No, but that's kind of what I was summing up to, is that I maybe would have liked to see just a little bit more of him being accepted by the other gladiators, because it did seem that from then on, from that naval battle scene,
they die for him then.
Yeah, they're just the leader. And now obviously a little bit later on, he does, towards the end, he unlocks all their prison cells, and they come out and they then eventually fight for him. But I just would have liked to see something just in between those, to really just endear him to the gladiators, and have them be willing now to fight on his behalf. Because I think with Maximus in the original Gladiator, he was so likable, and you could see the inspiration that he was giving to the men and why they would fight for him. Whereas I think that maybe was just missing from Paul Mescal's Lucius, because the only thing really that I saw was kind of humor, and he did have good battle skills and all, and the guys did eventually come around to him and fight him, and they saw the example of, well, this guy didn't listen to him and he ended up dying, we better listen to him. I would have just rather to see a little bit more inspiration.
We needed more of that. Like, you don't need to write dialogue of a guy, hey, Paul Mescal, you helped us. We don't need that.
No.
But show us. What did you take of the backstory of Paul Mescal then, in the fact that immediately once when his uncle died and Maximus saved the Rome and now everything is set, immediately, okay, we gotta ship this boy away to safety for some time. So pretty much now when you watch Gladiator, you're going to know instantly in that wide shot when they carry Maximus's body away, okay, now the mother's going to send the boy off to live on his own somewhere isolated because he's in danger, after Russell Crowe just said he's safe. Because now this sets an entire chain of events leading up to this movie.
I think I have a twofold answer for you on this. First of all, I think that it was really, really, really poor marketing for the trailers to reveal that Paul Mescal was Lucius.
I was indifferent about it.
I think.
Wait, what? Sorry, I was ready to answer the fact that Paul Mescal's character was the son of Maximus, which was lightly hinted or suggested or implied in the first movie.
Yeah.
To me, I'm indifferent about it. I didn't care. He could have been his son. He could have been just a different bloke altogether. But you said you think the marketing should not have revealed that it was Lucius.
Yeah. No.
Really?
Yeah, because there's, throughout the movie, there are these moments where Connie Nielsen is like looking at him and she's like, oh my God, are you Lucius? But I know he is, because I've seen the trailer.
And but lots of movies do that.
Yeah, I know, and it's bad practice. I don't think they should reveal those things. Like, I think that there was no indication before those scenes that he came from royalty or he was the Prince of Rome. What I would have liked more is if it had been slightly keep that thread of that she thinks it's him.
Yeah.
But I would have liked it if it was a bit more like Blade Runner 2049, where isn't. You know, maybe all these other people do, and they start making moves like, oh, that he could be it. And then he's like, no, I'm just a normal guy. Like, I'm not anyone.
Funny thing you say that is because even from conception, before they even casted Paul Mescal, I knew that it was always going to be Lucius.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
This story has been in development for quite a while since it was announced that he was going to return to do the sequel. Before we even received any description of Napoleon, before I think Vanessa Kirby replaced Jodie Comer in Napoleon, I knew it was always going to be Lucius.
No, I didn't, and so I was.
Then
when it's revealed in the trailer, I'm like, why are you telling that? Like, let that just play out in the story. That's so much more interesting.
We're coming at two different perspectives on this.
Fair enough,
but that's actually interesting. It's like you're talking about something that you would have wanted that was never an option.
Never an option for you. And then to answer then your initial question again, how did I feel about him? Like, essentially that first movie ends, and then immediately this one kind of starts, and everything that Maximus really fought for, like, to make Lucius safe.
Oh, immediately undone.
I was like, why though? Like, it just didn't make sense that she was just all of a sudden, like, had to send him away. It just felt like contrived. It just felt like the plot necessitated for Lucius to have left his mother at some point, and the earliest, most convenient point for them to do that would have been immediately after Gladiator ended. You know, that because that's when they do it, is immediately as soon as Maximus dies, they take his body away and it's like, we need to go right now, and they send him away, and it's like, why? The Joaquin Phoenix is dead, and now the power has been passed back to the Senate, and they're going to be finding a new emperor. Like, if it is him, okay, brilliant, he'll become emperor and he'll be a kid emperor or whatever. If it's not, that's fine. There's no, like, they don't have like it's not like Game of Thrones where like everyone's conspiring or anything like that. I never felt it was that kind of a way. Now I know that obviously Rome would have been like that, a bit more conspiry, but it did feel like we were just undoing Maximus' sacrifice and the whole ending of that first film, because Lucius was safe, but it didn't.
Sequel.
Yeah.
Sequel commands whatever you got to do to make it work, and that doesn't bother me really at all, because I don't hold it in such a high regard. I don't hold it to such high expectations that her immediately sending him on a horse after a hug, kiss, a goodbye, and she obviously looks much older than she did in the scene.
Did they replace the actress?
No, still Connie Britton. Yeah. So
Connie Nielsen.
Oh, sorry, Nielsen. It was still her. Yeah. I don't. That doesn't bother me because I guess in a non-negative way, I'm not a fan of Gladiator. I'm not devoted to it.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, if you give me another franchise that you know I love, and then point out something that I'm disappointed in, and I would be disappointed in it. I'm not disappointed here because okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's it.
I understand. Yeah. I guess me too. Also.
But the fighting Paul Mescal did in all the scenes, and that Ridley Scott was able to hold the camera to unedited takes. I actually appreciated that. I thought it was going to do an awful lot of cutting where it looks like he hit someone, but you know, pretend hit. Yeah. The choreography based on camera blocking. But no, there was actually a good few wide shots and single takes and that were unedited. That were quite good. In fact, there was one shot in the trailer that Paul Mescal was fighting against Pedro Pascal, and it feels like the sound effects were convincing me that their swords and weapons made contact when I'm just looking at them. That's not real fighting. That's a choreographer rushing his day on set because they're losing light. The trailer made me think that, but when I watched it in the movie, it convinced me otherwise. I believed the choreography most of the time, and I appreciated bloody swords.
That's actually something I wanted to bring up as well. I was afraid after watching the first movie that there wouldn't be as much blood. I thought that this one would be a little bit like toned down, but luckily we got some bloody swords and we got some violence in it, you know.
I like when someone slashes a sword against armor and that you see blood. I don't like it when it happens and you just hear the sound effect of the sword clashing into the armor and you just don't see any blood, but the guy goes out anyway. I like seeing blood come out. I like seeing I can't remember any other examples other than Pedro Pascal sticking his sword in a guy's neck and that guy fall on top of him, and the guy just sinks down into his sword, and Pedro Pascal is the last guy, so he just sort of took a minute to rest because he knew he killed him, but he's still upset because it's one of his own guys. Let's talk about him.
I was going to say, yeah, so Pedro Pascal, I think what I really, really liked about his character is that in a lot of ways he is the Maximus. He is like Maximus. And that the journey that Maximus was on in the first movie could have very easily been this journey had he not been betrayed.
Yeah.
Because realistically, that first battle scene in Gladiator is very similar to this initial one.
Yeah.
It's just we're seeing it now from the perspective of those that were being attacked, the barbarians, Paul Mescal's people.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that Pedro Pascal obviously is in a position where the emperor isn't dying. He's able to go back to Rome as a hero. And yeah, he is the villain of Paul Mescal's story, but he's not the villain. He's not in any way a villain.
No.
He was just doing what his job was, the same as Maximus was doing. It just so happens that we have this carryover from that battle.
He feels like he's 100% the Maximus from an objective perspective.
Yep.
But if you want to add a layer to it, he's also a little bit of Quintus as well. I think Quintus was the guy who sent soldiers to execute Maximus, and he was the guy who said, sheathe your swords, don't give Commodus your sword.
Yeah, he was like the right-hand man.
Yeah, essentially. I feel like that was Pedro Pascal here. He was both, because he was in the position of serving emperors, the villains, but he was also in the midst of constructing the uprising to overthrow them. So I like that. I like that here in this Legacy sequel, we are introduced to new characters, and Pedro Pascal, in tunnel vision, the villain. But immediately when he has his downtime after he's spoken to the real villains, the twins at the time, the real villains, and then he goes to visit his wife, it's a good way to confuse a real average Joe if they are able to recognize, wait a minute, that woman is the mother from the original movie. Why is she with this bad guy here? And wait a minute, he's a bad guy because he's presented to me as the bad guy because he's...
But his motivations seem to be that of a good guy.
So,
what's going on here?
So, to the average Joe, it's quite good because you're introducing new elements to this IP, and they are at the forefront, and they are visiting old elements that are in the background for the time being, and then they flash them out in their arcs throughout the movie. So it's really good that, let's say, Connie Nielsen was not introduced in this movie on her own. On her own scene, we are introduced to her in this movie because Pedro Pascal walks into the room. We are following his lead essentially.
Yeah, we've even before that. The emperors say to Pedro Pascal, to his character, don't forget about the concessions we've made for your wife, or like how we've put her up. And she's mentioned she's not by name, but we have reference to the fact that, okay, he has a wife and she has special treatment of some sort. And then you're right, we follow him to go see her, and then we're introduced to her. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Connie Nielsen from the first movie, I remember her, I recognize her.
I knew.
Yeah. So I think we both knew, but yeah, like you said,
we're not average Joes. But I liked how when Paul Mescal didn't hesitate to shoot an arrow at him, and this is the scene after Connie Nielsen asks him to help Paul Mescal in the uprising. So he's been told by his wife to help her son. And immediately the next scene, after they're hoping he survives the arena, the shark-infested waters and the soldiers'
battle,
the naval battle, and he just tries to kill him. And I like the shock in his face, like, what are you doing? But
for his perspective, we're on the same side, because Pedro Pascal doesn't realize that Paul Mescal has this rage and this fury and this want for revenge against him. In his eyes, he just sees him as my wife's son. I need to save him. Whereas Paul Mescal sees their relationship completely differently. It's like you're the villain, and he doesn't even know. I don't know what you're referring to.
Yeah,
you know?
I like when he was. You say when all the soldiers were killed by arrows and he was the only one left alive. I don't care about that, but I do care, and that I loved is that when he was caught, like half his hood was covered over. He was like Two-Face, like, and they pushed his hood away, and that's him captured. I liked, because we knew he was going to be put in the arena to fight against Paul Mescal, so I liked that they were there and they were fighting, and Paul Mescal, he doesn't like his new stepdad, so they're going to fight together, and it was great choreography. They got bloody with each other. They started fighting each other, like when they're having their dialogue scene, there's blood on their faces, and I appreciate that, and I appreciated that Pedro Pascal was going to win that fight.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot of times throughout the film, is that Paul Mescal isn't the greatest fighter. He isn't the best gladiator. There's a few times where he almost dies. Like at one point, the gladiator, he goes to show him mercy because he's won the fight. The emperor, gives the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah.
And he refuses the mercy, and then he's able to quickly kill your man.
Yeah.
But he lost that fight. And the same again with Pedro Pascal. He was going to lose that fight.
Sorry, did you say Pedro Pascal was going to lose that fight? Or?
No, sorry, Paul Mescal was going to lose it to
yeah.
Pedro. Yeah, so you're right. I think he's not the best fighter. And you're right. Pedro Pascal was going to win that fight. What you were saying there, though, about he was going to end up in the arena, I like that it wasn't a simple copy and paste of that first movie, that's what we were leading to.
Yeah.
Now we thought that was what they were going to be leading to, based on the marketing, based on that
he was going to be the Joaquin Phoenix to Paul Mescal's Russell Crowe.
But
we're halfway through the movie and this doesn't feel right because we're presented to him now as not a villain at all. So what's going on here? And
I like the circumstances in which he ends up in that arena. That it's not like this is the final confrontation or anything like that. This isn't the final battle.
No.
It's just he has been betrayed by Denzel and has ended up in the arena, and that's, for Paul Mescal's character, his end game. But it's not the end game of the movie. Like, this is what he's been leading towards, but then the bigger conspiracy unfolds and it's actually Denzel is the true villain of the story.
Yeah.
But what I just want to say before going on to Denzel, what I really like about Pedro Pascal's character is that even though he is the good guy, or he is a good guy, and he's not the villain, he's the villain of someone's story. And I like that we got him here in Gladiator like that, and I look forward to him in Last of Us Part 2 for a similar reason.
I like his exit here.
Yeah. I like that there was the
they held no arrows back.
Yeah, they didn't. No, and it was
they pulled
comedic almost how many arrows went into that guy. But
it was necessary. As soon as that happened, I was like, oh no, that's good, because I'm glad they did that. It was perfect to conclude that character there. And
I liked the conclusion right before it, that Paul Mescal's character didn't forgive him, but didn't kill him.
Yeah,
he chose to show mercy.
Yeah.
He didn't need to kill him, but it didn't mean he forgave him fully. But he recognized that I shouldn't kill this man.
Yeah.
And then he even has that switch, when he dies and he calls out to all the people in the Colosseum, like, this is a Roman hero.
Yeah.
This is a hero and this is how you treat them. If this is how you treat your heroes, how do you think they're going to treat you? And that kind of nearly sparks the uprising.
That entertainment?
Yeah.
So Denzel's playing the Game of Thrones.
Denzel would be right at home in the Game of Thrones. He was great. He was really scheming and maniacal, and also in certain ways didn't hide what he was doing. It was very obvious what he was doing. He even says it to someone else, before the last game.
Yeah.
He says, someone says to him, what happens if they all if the crowd cause an uprising and start fighting? He goes, oh, it's easy. I'll kill the emperor and I'll take the throne for myself.
Yeah.
He just fully says it. He's not hiding his motivations.
I think it was a great reminder, even though it's very simple. You told me you wanted the general's head. I gave him to you. Mm-hmm. You said you were going to kill him. You didn't. I'm still going to continue my plan. Mm-hmm. He wants the throne. Mm-hmm. He wants the empire. He wants to rule Rome. And I knew he was that type of character. I didn't realize he was going to be the villain, because that's what he wanted. That was a great switch. Because even as someone who knew so much of the story and knew so much, I even knew Pedro Pascal was not going to be the real villain. Mm-hmm. But it was quite good. It's quite good to see Denzel play a role where it echoes remnants of his role in Training Day. Did you see Training Day?
No.
You should watch Training Day.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed him. I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Denzel fan.
No.
Only for the fact that I haven't seen many roles.
That's a lie. You've seen plenty to know of Denzel.
No, I know of Denzel,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't call myself a Denzel fan.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
I feel like I'm calling myself a Denzel fan now because he comes into this and he's just having fun with it. Like he's a veteran now. He should be held up. I actually hold him in such a high regard, similar to Tom Hanks.
Yeah, okay.
They did a movie called Philadelphia.
That's one of the only ones I've seen of him, Philadelphia.
Yeah, well, it was a very good movie. But I like how he's coming in here playing the what's the slave trader in the first movie.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Oliver Stone's character, I can't think of the name.
His name it's not Oliver Stone. Oliver Stone's a director.
What am I thinking of? Who am I thinking of?
Oliver something. Anyway, he's like that here in this movie, Denzel. And no, you don't need to check it out.
I'm going to check it. I could have sworn his name was Oliver Stone. However, I will stand corrected. But please continue your point.
My point being is he was such a good character that when he started playing the Game of Thrones, being both Clubfoot and Littlefinger, it was good to see that he was in putting plans into motion to whisper into one of the brothers' ears and then say something different in the other, and that he was trying to manipulate the one who's easily manipulated, the one with the monkey, the one who Barry Keoghan was originally going to play, Fred Hershinger. And by the way, Fred Hershinger, he actually did a good job.
He did a great job. He made me want to go, okay, I really like that performance. I want to look out for him more.
He's in the White Lotus.
Okay, cool. That's one that I wanted to watch anyway. So I'm glad now that he's in it. I looked up his name. Sorry, it's Oliver Reed. Sorry, I stand corrected. Oliver Reed.
Yeah.
But continue.
I like once he put in motion the historical facts that the crazy brother killed the, I suppose, other crazy brother.
Less crazy, the Joseph Quinn brother.
Yeah, Joseph Quinn, because that's actually real life facts. That happened. Grayish, Carish, Cactus, whatever the fuck his name was, killed Gaeta. And the crazy one with the monkey, Caracalla. Jesus Christ!
I find that the names so difficult to remember.
Gaeta. Joseph played Gaeta. Joseph Quinn played Gaeta. I knew, well, according to history, that Gaeta died by that, by the hand of his own brother. But of course, for the sake of this movie, it was Denzel pulling the strings, and literally did force him to, slice his own neck. And I like the brotherly love between the two. Now, even that Joseph Quinn was not going to backstab his brother, and I like how he said, "I look, brother, break from this spell. I've always looked out for you." Like he's looking out for him like a younger brother. But
there's this great moment right before he kills him, where he's saying that he's like, "Break the spell, come on, I've always looked after you." And he looks up and he meets Denzel's eye and he's like, "Help me at this." Like, we don't know Denzel is there yet, but he looks up and he's like, "Help me," and then he immediately goes back to him, and that's when he's killed. And it's this great moment where it's like he's taken by surprise that his brother is coming at him with a knife, and it's even that great where he has the hand out and the other one, what's it, Caracalla,
Fred Hershinger, he
just slices his hand and he's like, "Whoa, like what's going on?" It's so random. It's just like so, just out of nowhere. You're like, "What is going on?" And that's how he kind of reacted, was that this is, his brother is crazy, but they would never, at no point throughout any of the rest of the movie have they hurt each other or attempted to hurt each other or been mean to each other or anything like that. It's just from Denzel whispering in his ear, kind of poisoning in his ear. Yeah, they were actually, even though they were tyrannical monsters, they were actually good co-leaders together. Yeah. They were happy and content. Like when the crazy one with the monkey was trying to kill Pedro Pascal, Joseph Quinn was trying to stop him. Hold him back. Yeah, like that was, I actually like that between them. But it was the right plan to take out Joseph Quinn first, so he can, manipulate the other guy. Yeah, because definitely. As soon as he announced that I named first citizen to my council, my pet monkey. Yeah, it was good. Yeah. And then my name second citizen, Denzel. And then he walks off somewhere to, I don't know, take a shit, and then Denzel comes in and sit down. Because now everyone knows that, okay, we're listening to this guy. And what's great before that scene, the seeds that he's planted throughout, by wagering bets against his gladiator with one of the other council members, and so he
Yeah.
gets him to a point where he's in so much debt where he's like, just agree, just follow me. And then when he's in that scene, your man is there and he says something, and it's the guy who he has in his
full
pocket.
supporter. Yeah,
As soon as he starts clapping, everyone else does.
Yeah.
You know, everyone kind of nearly follows him, and it was a really, like you were saying earlier, it would have been absolutely perfect in Game of Thrones.
I liked that. Yeah, actually, good thing you said that, because a issue I have is that when he's playing Whispers with the brothers, I feel like he needed to do that earlier, or at least Ridley Scott needed to showcase that earlier, because
that was his intention.
Because
Yeah.
no, not that it was intention, but it's just the fact that he did it in the one scene, and the next scene, the consequences is taking place. Like throughout the movie, Denzel is praising the brothers. He's licking up to them. He's making himself seem valuable by providing information, but he's not whispering it into their ears until the scene before one of them gets it.
Yeah,
and as soon as he whispers into the brother's ear, that brother is killing the other brother. I feel like it feels like we were going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, and we jumped to 9.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Absolutely.
But I don't hold it a high regard. But everyone's saying that Denzel did an Oscar-worthy performance. I would say, okay, yeah, because he's Denzel. I'm sure he will receive an Oscar nomination. But I feel like his character towers his performance, I think.
Go a little bit further.
What do you mean?
Just to continue. I don't know exactly what you mean by that, so just go a little bit further.
His character was very flamboyant. It was very colourful. His drapes, his walk, his little laugh, his fakeness, his conniving, his Game of Thrones play. It was his character. And then the reveal of his character's motives. I feel like all that towers a good solid performance in that of Denzel. When I say this role he does here echoes what he did in Training Day. What he did in Training Day was what earned him that Oscar. And I see some of that here, but it's not all of it. It's very colourful. It's very crowded. And I think the issues I said already in this episode about this movie sort of brings it down a little. If anyone is worthy of an Oscar nomination, it's him.
I agree.
But that's it.
Yeah, I think that I don't think he will get an Oscar nomination. However, I think he was the best actor within the whole cast. And his character was the best performed out of all of them. I think that if you were the Academy and said, well, you have to give one Oscar nomination to one of the cast of Gladiator, it would go to him.
Yeah.
And there'd be no question about it. I think that he is the best part of the movie. Even so much so that, in a way, I feel like I spent more time with him than I did Paul Mescal.
Yeah.
And he's the Gladiator.
Yeah.
You know,
but he gets the end in the credits though.
He does, but I should feel like, having watched it, that I spent the most time with Paul Mescal and not Denzel.
Yeah.
I feel like there were so many scenes where Denzel is doing that, conniving and pouring the poison into their ears and gaining that political capital and that kind of stuff, that then after those scenes you go back to Paul and you go, oh yeah, shit, I'm watching Gladiator. I'm going back to, like, you kind of really forget because we spend so much time elsewhere.
He was supposed to kiss a fella.
Yeah, which is so strange that they took that out, because the Romans are well known for their kind of bisexuality and, like, that they would lie with men as equally as they would lie with women.
Yeah, like the brothers, I feel like Denzel would fuck anything that moves.
And he would, absolutely. He and anyone that moved would fuck him, you know? But he even has a line about it a little earlier in the day, a little bit earlier in the movie.
He says something. Someone says, "Oh, but that guy was not too fond of the women." It's like, I'm not either on my fun days, or something like that.
Something like that, to that effect, like that he acknowledges that. Yeah, I'm also gay.
Yeah, but no, he's not. It's
he just
pansexual,
exactly,
is what I call it. Just, I wouldn't strictly call him that. I think
you like sex.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
blow off some steam. But hey, bloody violence and murder is okay.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, we're kind of coming to the end of the episode. I wanted to ask you, what was your favourite fight sequence? Like, kind of Gladiator set piece.
I think it was the one that Pedro Pascal was doing, and then it led to Paul Mescal coming up to fight him. I think because it's just two guys fighting each other, two guys we've been following. That's it. But if you wanted me to answer one that had monsters or creatures or, you know...
Whatever, I asked you for your favourite.
Oh, well then it was that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I would say it was very close between the two of the baboons and the naval battle.
Yeah.
I think the naval battle, because that's something that isn't well known to the average person, that is real, that's what they used to do. Is not only were there gladiator fights, you know, combat one-on-one, but they used to flood the arena and have simulated naval battles. Not simulated, they would have naval battles and recreations of that. So that was all true, that was all real. So seeing that take place, once again, it goes back to what we were saying at the start, seeing this essentially kind of piece of history that used to take place that I will never get a chance to see. We'll never get to see a naval battle take place in the Colosseum, but we can watch Gladiator 2 and see it, and we can see it as close to how it was. And I think that was just really just great to see, and a great evolution of the battles from the first movie, because you had those chariot fights, and so now seeing a naval battle was great to see.
Yeah, I suppose we should be grateful for Ridley Scott being the man capable to deliver it to us.
Yeah,
because who else could?
Yeah, he'd be the go-to guy if someone was like, you know, you want to see a time period from back, you know, you want to see a previous time period put to screen, who you getting to direct it?
Yeah,
I'm going Ridley Scott. You know, for better or for worse, I'm going for him.
What do you think about the final act when Denzel kills the other brother and immediately kills Connie Nielsen?
I didn't really. This is going to say bad. I didn't really care about her death. I didn't really care for her as a character.
I thought her death was inconsequential.
Yeah,
like he even. Ridley Scott even killed the other Senate guy from the first movie,
Derek Jacobi. Yeah, it was so weird. Like, it was just like unnecessary.
Yeah, it's like, should you really be killing that guy? He's just a simple old man. You kind of need him alive to continue ruling Rome. Like,
it's not like he really wanted to just like cut all final ties with that first movie. Like, there's no one else we have to carry forward.
I felt very insecure. We were losing all these OG actors. I feel like, can we get Spencer Treat Clark back in for a cameo or something? Because now Paul Mescal's the only guy we're following, and it's a new generation.
Yeah,
and I appreciated that the fight was interesting between him and Denzel, but it didn't last too long.
No,
and where else are you going to see Denzel have his arm sliced off? And then give his intestines gutted open.
Yeah, no, you're not going to see it anywhere
else. No, like, I appreciate seeing an actor of that class do something like this. Get in the water. Get
wet. And full on.
Yeah,
like,
get physical.
Get physical, yeah, exactly. One last thing before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, because you had mentioned it, what did you think of the kind of afterlife sequence? And how it compared to that of the original one?
I generally don't like afterlife sequences unless it's not taking itself seriously. So when it did it in the first movie, I could take it or leave it. I'll go on my phone. I'm not going to fast forward, but I generally just don't like a single movie's interpretation of the afterlife, whether it's an homage to something or whether it takes an active role in the plot or the character's arc. I just don't generally like it. Like, this one creative artist thinks this is what heaven should be in this project. Now, when other movies, like, let's say This Is the End, or
when they satirize it,
or Bruce Almighty, when Morgan Freeman is playing God, so it's a comedy. When movies like that, Keanu Reeves is playing an angel in an upcoming 2025 movie, I think, where he bestows. I think I can't remember what the plot is about, but it's like, it's a movie about money doesn't make you happy, but in this case it does. It does. Okay. And Keanu Reeves is playing an angel who's trying to earn his wings back. So that's a take on heaven, but it's a comedy, it's satire, and I like that.
But you don't like the serious versions of it.
Yeah. So here I popcorn.
Yeah. I liked it. I think more in this.
Well, I think only, Well, the ferryman.
Yeah, exactly. Only because it more drew on the kind of the Greek versions of the afterlife, and having the river Styx and the ferryman taking them over. I would like to see maybe one more dream sequence, maybe two. One more in the middle of the movie and one at the end where maybe he gets a chance to talk to his wife or something. Yeah. But there was two sequences of it, and then one time where he said he had a dream last night of it. So we were told instead of shown that he had this dream. And it was just weird to like not include it. It's like, if you're going to include it once and that kind of dream of the afterlife plays such a prominent role in the first movie, so much so that the last shot of this movie is that shot of him walking through the reeds again when he asks to speak to his father. It's just strange to really kind of not fully commit, like half commit to doing it this time. And I would have liked to just commit to the Greek mythological version of the afterlife.
I'm indifferent about it. Yeah, I just don't like it. Like, I could have done without them, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think in summary of the whole thing, because we're wrapping up.
Yeah. Hurry up, David.
Good.
We'll get the recommendations.
Good movie. Enjoyed it. Not as good as the first one, but glad we have it.
I think I should get the ruler and slap someone who says not as good as the first movie. Stop saying that. I think it's unfair at this point.
Yeah, it is also very hard to compare.
It's had 20
years versus we've had 24 hours.
20 plus years. Yeah, like 24 years compared to 24 hours.
Yeah. That's fair.
Come on.
Yeah, okay.
All right, it's not as good as the first one. As I drink my champagne.
Have you got a recommendation for us before we let these people go?
I do have a recommendation before we let these people go. I am going to recommend Heretic.
Oh, yeah. You saw this. I didn't get to see this, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Recommend it.
Hugh Grant plays a creepy man.
Yeah.
And it's a great movie to watch him debate religion with these two Mormon girls. It's worth the watch. I give 4.5 stars, and as a scary, spooky horror thriller in that genre, I think it's better. I think it's better than Smile.
Okay, interesting.
Or Smile 2, I should say. But I think overall I liked it because I liked the ending as well.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. It's very good. Heretic. Go watch it. Go watch Hugh Grant climb.
I've had a busy week this week, so I haven't got to watch anything. So I'm going to recommend everyone have a hot chocolate.
Okay.
It's a nice warm drink as we enter into the winter season.
I'm more of a coffee man myself.
Have yourself a hot chocolate, okay? Tonight.
Can you make me a hot chocolate?
I will. Yeah, we'll make one after this now.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Brian, for joining me for this episode of Talking Pictures Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give it 5 stars and leave a little review if you can. It costs you nothing, gives us everything. If you're not already, make sure that you're subscribed to us on your favourite podcasting app of choice and follow us on all our social medias. They're down, the links below. We have new episodes every single Wednesday, as well as bonus episodes every other weekend. And if you have any suggestions for bonus episode content, make sure to send them in to talkingpicturespodcast1@gmail.com. Brian, any final words before we let these people go?
Hold that thought, David, and I'll get back to you.
Enjoy that hot chocolate, right?